Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to just vanish, leaving nothing behind but questions and heartbreak? Imagine a place so silent, so far from civilization, that even your voice would get lost among the trees in March 2005. Something strange happened in the deep forests of northern Georgia. A signal appeared, only for a few seconds, where no roads or cell towers existed. A phone, silent for 4 long years, suddenly woke up. A whisper from the shadows. One last echo. It all circles back to Greg Morrison, a missing man whose story still haunts those who knew him. Would you dare step into the unknown, knowing you may never return? Greg Morrison disappeared in September 2001. He was 32, a programmer in Atlanta, his days spent behind glowing screens after his divorce. Greg found peace in being alone, his apartment a quiet retreat. No children, no calls, no contact from his ex-wife, who'd moved away without a backward glance. His parents, far away in Ohio, saw him just once a year, their bond stretched by distance and time. His heart pulled him to the woods, to the trails. The silence, the feeling of being unseen. Every few months, he vanished into the wilds, chasing something only he could feel. Does isolation sharpen the mind, or does it awaken something deeper and more restless? Greg loved hiking. To him, it was not just exercise, it was escape. He shared little about his trips, only telling colleagues that hiking helped him breathe, helped him think. Every couple of months his plans would form. Quiet and certain, he always chose the Chattahoochee National Forest. Places that felt like old friends. Greg knew those woods, walked them since his teen years with his family. Something in those forests called him back. Again and again, what draws people to remote places? Is it peace or is it danger waiting in disguise? Friday, September 14th, Greg packed for a 3-day solo journey, preparing for the unpredictable tent. Sleeping bag, food for days, first aid and thermos, every item carefully chosen. His Nokia phone, charged but often useless out there, joined the essentials: map, compass, flashlight, knife, tools of survival and hope, hiking boots, a sturdy jacket, jeans for protection against whatever might come. By noon, he was on the road in his old Honda Accord, leaving behind the noise of Atlanta. How do you prepare for the unknown? And what do you leave behind when you go? Greg reached the forest entrance in just over an hour. His car rolled to a stop in the trailhead parking lot. The Appalachian Trail awaited, winding through the eastern Chattahoochee, famous for its autumn colors. At the ranger station, Greg signed in, name, car details, route, return date. Each detail marked an experienced hiker. Greg reassured the elderly ranger he'd be safe, even as warnings of rain hung in the air. His confidence masked the shadows that might be hiding in the trees. He nodded, zipped his jacket, and set off to conquer the trail. Do you trust your skills? Or is nature always one step ahead? The forest swallowed him up. Tall oaks, whispering pines, maples heavy with leaves, all standing tight together. Leaves rustled under Greg's boots, the warm 25-degree air wrapping around him like a dream. Sunlight squeezed through treetops, painting the ground with shifting patterns. He crossed paths with a couple and their dog. A short exchange. One more moment in passing. 3 young men overtook Greg, trekking fast and light. He let them surge ahead. The world behind him faded, only the wild ahead. When you walk into the forest, do you leave your worries behind, or do they follow you through the trees? Greg's plan was simple, meant to keep him safe. Walk 5 days of the main route, cover 10 to 12 miles each day, rest at designated campsites. The trail marked with white on trees, making it almost impossible to lose his way. That first night, he aimed to reach a campsite 8 miles in. Fire pit, water, and company if he wanted it. Routine and preparation, the tools of safety in the wilderness. But nature has its own secrets, and some roads may turn when you least expect. Is following the rules enough to stay safe, or is danger always lurking behind routine? Monday morning brought silence. Greg didn't show at work. His boss, worried but hopeful, tried Greg's cell. Nothing but dead ringing in the air. Maybe Greg was just enjoying his hike, lost in the wild a little longer. But by evening, reality began to creep in. Greg was missing, his phone still dark. By Tuesday, concern grew. A call to Greg's apartment brought nothing but emptiness. The building manager checked the lot. Greg's car still gone, his home untouched. Would you notice if someone around you disappeared, or would it take days before you felt their absence? Wednesday, still no sign of Greg. Missing person report filed. Police quick to act inside Greg's apartment. Everything was calm, undisturbed, untouched. No notes, no mess. No clues on where he'd gone. Greg's parents, hearts pounding, confirmed his hiking plans. The ranger service pulled out the log. Greg Morrison, September 14th, return planned for the 18th. They checked the parking lot, found his Honda locked and waiting inside. Sunglasses, water bottle, road map. Pieces of a life left behind. Nothing forced, nothing stolen. Just a car that witnessed a story nobody understood. What if the only clues left are the ones nobody knows how to read? A search began. Rangers and volunteers joined together. Hoping for a miracle, they followed Greg's chosen trail into the forest, reached the first campsite, empty. Silent, untouched, no tent or campfire, not even trash left behind. They kept going, tracing each stop along the route, still nothing. Only the echo of footsteps. 30. People scoured the woods, venturing near and far. Refusing to give up, hope dogs tracked Greg's scent from the parking lot, following him into the wild. But just 5 miles in, on a rocky stream crossing, the scent vanished like a ghost. Greg's trail went cold. Can a person simply disappear? Or is something hiding just out of sight? Greg's parents arrived from Ohio, hope running thin but not yet gone. His father, guided by the search teams, trudged through the forest day after day. His mother stayed in town, voice shaking as she called hospitals and pleaded with police. Their only child was somewhere out there, and no sign pointed toward an answer for 2 long weeks. The search continued, a race against fear and fading hope. Helicopters circled, scanning a 20-mile radius. No tent, no gear, no struggle, no body, just the forest. Still in secret, they asked how, and no cliffs to fall from, no map or compass to get lost by, no animals hunting humans. If he had been attacked, they would find something, anything. But there was just emptiness. Is the worst fear not knowing what happened, or believing you may never know? Police examined every scrap of Greg's life. No money withdrawn, no suspicious activities, nothing to suggest a plan to disappear. Hospitals searched, morgues checked. No sign of a man matching Greg's face. By September's end, hope dwindled, active searching stopped. But Greg's parents could not let go. His father made a vow to return every month, a ritual of hope. Greg's car became a symbol. His apartment emptied 3 months later, belongings sold, projects closed, people moved on. But questions still echoed. Time passed. Pain stayed. When do you stop looking for someone you love? And does anyone ever truly stop? A year, then 2, slipped away. Greg's case gathered dust in the police records, a story no one could solve. His parents held on to fragile hope, each visit a sting of memory. Twice a year, Greg's father walked those trails, posted pictures, asked strangers for any scrap of news. The forest kept its secrets. Tourists journeyed on. Rangers did their jobs. No other missing cases from that area. As if the woods picked just one soul to keep, Greg Morrison became a fading memory. A story to be lost in fall leaves and old photos. Do forests hold secrets, or do people just vanish into thin air? Then, in March 2005, almost 4 years after Greg vanished, something remarkable happened. A technician at the cell phone company in northern Georgia was scanning signals, a task meant to be routine. Suddenly, a phone number long dead and gone blinked to life. Just for a few seconds, weak signal, just a hint. Then silence again. It was Greg's phone, the same one missing since that day. The technician ran the data. Greg Morrison, Atlanta address, a number that should never have lived again. 4 years dark. More than 3 years since the account was shut down. Why now? Why here? He checked the coordinates. Remote, thick forest, no trails, no towers, just trees and hills and fear. He reported it, his hands sweating, knowing it might mean something. The information reached the police. A new mystery was born. Can lost voices reach out from the darkness? Or does the forest finally speak back? What if a door hidden in the earth could unlock 4 years of silent terror, buried secrets, and the haunting truth? Would you dare step inside a place nobody ever mapped, where only pain and fear grew for years? This story twists deeper into darkness, pushing you straight into what humans can survive and what chains them in dread. Greg's detective had moved on to a different case, leaving his files untouched for years. But the new officer refused to let go. He dug up every report, studied every detail, and marked every date. The coordinates from the last signal were like a puzzle piece. Rangers agreed to organize a search at the end of March. A team set out with shovels, ropes, and a hope for the unknown. 4 rangers, 2 police officers, and a technician with signal equipment walked together. Deep inside the woods, the ground grew wild, thick, and the sky above faded away. Would you keep walking if you sensed something dangerous ahead, knowing you might uncover what was never meant to be seen? The coordinates pointed them far off the official trails into hilly, tangled brush, no paths, no markers, just the cold precision of the GPS. Their boots pressed through plants that clawed at their legs and arms. Hungry for secrets by evening, after hours of pushing, they reached the spot where the signal had been born. The technician powered his device, forced his attention onto the screen, hoping for just a tiny sign. But there was only silence. The phone had gone mute again, leaving them in the thick shadows with mounting questions. Camp was set up. Torches glowed. Hearts trembled. Tomorrow could hold anything. Would you fall asleep if you knew something terrifying was waiting for you at sunrise? When morning came, they searched wider. One ranger noticed a small hill on the horizon. Too smooth, too flat. Unlike anything else nearby, they approached, each step feeling heavier beneath the dirt and tangled vines. An outline of something hard appeared. Shovels struck earth. And soon old concrete showed itself. An edge of mystery, solid and cold, digging faster now. The ground peeled away, exposing more corners, and an ominous wall of metal door hid, disguised as a natural rock. Impossible to notice unless you were searching. Thick steel, rusty, covered in years of dirt, built to keep something in or out. No marks, no numbers, only a barrier. Rangers tried pulling. Pushing, the door refused, locked on some hidden side with no way in. Help was called in. Backup arrived. Gears grinding and sweat pouring, crowbars, grinders, a heavy portable generator, all ready to fight against whatever secrets the metal crushed. An hour of noise finally gave way. The lock snapped as the door slowly opened. A breath of foul air rolled out. Darkness inside, carrying a smell that made eyes water. A stench of decay and despair. Would you step inside after feeling the dead of years waiting in the shadows? Flashlights flickered into the pitch darkness. A narrow concrete corridor revealed itself, sloping downward, walls damp, crawling with black mold, stained with endless neglect. The ground felt harsh, slippery. Gradually, the hall widened into a large room, a bunker untouched by light for decades. Cold War ruins, built for a past danger, now holding new mysteries inside. Metal shelves clung to walls. Empty boxes fell apart. Tools rusted to useless shapes. But it was the next room that changed everything. 4 bodies lay there, no longer human, only skeletons chained to pipes. The first officer stepped forward, light shaking, breath caught in his chest. The rest gathered, awkward, scared, eyes wide with horror. 4 figures leaned against the wall, chained by the right leg to water pipes. Old chains, heavy, Loctite bones instead of faces, scraps of jeans, shreds of t-shirts, broken jackets, shoes still on their feet on the ground, empty plastic bottles, crushed tin cans, old food wrappers scattered just like lost hope in the corner. A bucket used as a toilet, marking years of lost privacy and dignity. One ranger turned their light toward the wall just above the bodies. 1,000 scratches cut into the concrete, short vertical lines grouped in 5s, the oldest way to count days for people trapped in desperate counting groups. Losing count, starting again, 1,340 marks, almost 4 years. One for each day a person sat chained in the darkness. Is fear heavier when it's marked into stone instead of voices? Police rushed outside, calling for help. Locking down the area, crime scene tape surrounded the entrance. By evening, experts arrived, bringing lights, cameras, tools, a generator to flood the old stone with strength and sight. Forensic teams worked in silence. The bunker was old, built long ago for safety, now home for horrors. Concrete thick as nightmares, metal doors that shut away hope, a forgotten shelter, camouflaged under earth and plants, never drawn on any current map. Inside, empty shelves, old equipment, rusty tools, and emptiness. But deeper down, secrets waited. The third room held dusty supplies, boxes of canned food, bottles of water, dry rations piled high, years old, but not untouched. It was obvious someone kept bringing food, watching and returning. Did the forest only hide those who got lost, or did someone use it for their own silent plans? Experts documented each angle, measured every mark, photographed every item with careful hands. Bones were removed, separated from chains, put into transport bags with silent respect. Each skeleton was given a number 1. A grown man by the dimensions of his bones and pelvis. Far left, number 2. A woman next along the wall, number 3. A middle-aged man, noted by the shape of his teeth, number 4. A younger man, placed on the far right, near the last body, an old Nokia phone. The phone was turned off, but nearby a torn wire hung from the bunker's old electrical system. Technicians studied the cable and the phone. It seemed a piece of metal had touched the battery contact by accident. That touch gave the phone a quick spark, enough to revive it for a few seconds, maybe only 5. Just long enough to send a signal and draw the team here after the spark died. The phone slept again. The phone was bagged. The SIM card pulled out for a lab test. It belonged to Greg Morrison. The same Greg who vanished in 2001. Bones were sent for careful study. Age, gender, height, every detail investigated. Body 4. A man, 30 to 35, about 6 feet tall. It matched Greg perfectly. Body 3. A man, 40 to 45, 5 feet 10. Body 2. A woman, 25 to 30, 5 feet 6. Body 1. A man, 50 to 55, 5 feet 8. The team searched missing persons reports across Georgia and nearby states. Looking for any pattern, they found 3 matches. Robert Hansen, 53, a history teacher, disappeared in October 1988. His car was found, but his family never saw him again. Jennifer Cole, 27, nurse, vanished in June 1999. Left her car in the lot. Belongings missing. Parents searched, police searched, and the forest stayed quiet. David Price, 43, another programmer, divorced and searching for peace. Lost in March 2001. He registered, walked in, and never returned to the living world. DNA confirmed everyone. Families finally learning the truth they hoped to avoid. 4 disappearances in 3 years. 4 haunted souls chained together in forgotten fear. Investigators now hunted for whoever was behind it. Each wall, each hidden corner held clues, messages scratched with nails, stone, or even bones themselves. Names: Robert Hansen, Jennifer Cole, David Price, Greg Morrison. A date: September 2001. The last Greg wrote. The moment his hope vanished, other words appeared: small, lost, fading, help anyone, exit, nothing more. The rest wiped away by hunger, exhaustion, fear too heavy. Could you write messages when your strength faded and hope ran dry? Forensic teams swept every room, refusing to leave anything missed. On an old table, a school notebook appeared, ordinary, squared pages, half filled with neat writing. It was laid out like a diary. Words written slow, patient and frightened. The truth waited there, trapped until sunlight finally found it. Imagine opening a diary trapped in silence for years, knowing it could reveal the pain and fear hidden far from the world. Would you read what no sunlight ever touched, even though every page might chill your heart? This is not only a record of days, but the echo of human suffering no one wanted to believe could happen. The first entry began in October 1988. He brought the first victim, a man near 50 walking alone on a trail, 7 miles from the parking lot, knocked out with chloroform, dragged to the shelter, chained to a pipe, told he was part of an experiment and his reactions would be studied. Every entry after this was cold, written like a report with no trace of warmth. The author wrote how often he came, what he left, how the man responded to isolation, what he said, how he behaved. Day 30 stood out. The subject had stopped begging for freedom. He sat silent, ate little, went without hope as his water ran dry. Then, in June 1999, a second entry appeared. Brought the second subject, a young woman hiking alone. Same routine, same capture, chained right next to the first. It will be interesting to observe interaction. The author described their effort to help each other. The slow fading of hope, the small kindnesses, all noted without feeling. March 2001, a third entry. This time another man, alone, taken the same way. Then in September of that year, Greg Morrison, the last subject. 4 are enough. The experiment continues. The author's main goal, to see how long a person could stay sane when cut off completely, allowed only the smallest contact with the one in charge. The diary showed the author came to the bunker once a week, always bringing water in plastic bottles, canned food, sometimes pieces of bread. He left food, watched the prisoners for a few minutes, jotted notes, and then left. Never answered questions, never spoke to comfort or explain. Day 400, a turning point. The first man weakened to the point where moving at all was hard. The woman tried to feed him, hoping to keep him alive. The newer 2, David and Greg, lasted longer. They spent hours telling stories, sharing memories, small talks that were meant to keep hope alive. Day 600. The first subject died. Others tried to get the author's attention, shouting, banging pipes, pleading for anything, a rescue, even a word. But the author ignored the desperate sounds. On the next visit, he cleared the body without emotion and recorded the change. The diary continued to record the 3 who survived, their attempts to keep going as the experiment dragged on. The last entry was in June 2004, day 1100. My health is failing. Doctors say it's cirrhosis. Time is slipping away. I am ending the experiment. I will not come anymore. I want to see how long they last without help. After those words, no more entries. The author never came again. The 3 left behind struggled on with no food or water. Marks scratched into the walls showed they survived about 2 months more. The last tally was 1340 days. After that, all hope ended in silence and shadows. As investigators read, fear grew with each page. What drives someone to become so cold to suffering? Fingerprints on the diary told the story. Howard Lamb. At 62, he died of cirrhosis in August 2004. Records showed 20 years in the Army, retiring in 1987. After leaving the service, he lived alone in a small wooden house. 8 miles from the bunker, investigators tracked down this house, finding it untouched, surrounded by thick forest, boarded up, windows dusty, overgrown yard. Inside, dust coated every surface. Old furniture sagged, air thick and musty. No sign anyone had visited since Lamb died. In a back room, they found an entire shelf stuffed with diaries, each notebook a piece of his hidden life. The earliest diaries dated back to 1990, filled with everyday thoughts about life, work, loneliness. He admitted missing the Army, the routines, the order, and the security of discipline. He complained that people around him were weak, lacked discipline, and did not understand the meaning of control. From the mid-1990s, his notes slowly grew stranger. He talked about psychological experiments, how he watched people in stressful conditions during his Army days. He wanted to push his research alone, imagining ways people might break under pressure. In 1998, Lamb found the bunker hidden and unused deep in the woods, a leftover from military years, waiting for its own secret to be born. He decided the shelter would suit his plans. Lamb started watching hikers along the trails, especially those alone and vulnerable. He waited for a moment when a person seemed weak or distracted, approached as if to offer help, or simply attacked from behind with chloroform. Once unconscious, he dragged his victim deep into the bunker. His diaries recounted every step, stalking the victim, choosing the time, carrying them through forest miles, his pride in physical strength and determination to see his experiment through. Carrying an adult in rough terrain was tough, but he believed the goal worth any struggle. He chained each person to a pipe, made sure the shackles were firm, almost ritualistic in their coldness. Food and water were given only in minimum amounts, enough to keep the prisoners alive but never enough to keep them strong. Torture by time and emptiness instead of violence. He monitored how long captives begged for freedom, how their hope faded, what happened when a neighbor died. For Lamb, this experiment was not about physical pain but loneliness, fear, and the slow unraveling of the mind. He recorded when people stopped begging, when they grew silent, when only small talks kept darkness away. All acts of empathy, kindness, and fear were written down as data for his project. He never raped or physically tortured his victims, only kept them chained in darkness, talking about them as subjects. Food arrived just enough to stretch each life to its breaking point. His shape of torture was time. Emptiness, hopelessness, no warmth, no hope, only waiting for the end. In 2004, sickness finally broke him. The doctor told Lamb his liver was failing. He would die soon. He ended his experiment without ceremony, just letting people starve. No more food or visits. Lamb himself died a few weeks later in his cabin, quietly, alone. His will contained nothing about the bunker or his crimes. No confession, no apology, nothing but directions for a simple cremation and the little he owned going to the state. No one who knew him understood the truth he had hidden. After the bunker was found, victims' families received the news, ending years of agony in a moment of pure grief. Greg Morrison's mother felt the world break when police called. Years of prayers and worry ended in total heartbreak. His father could not speak and didn't move, all words lost inside him. Jennifer Cole's parents in Tennessee got their own phone call. Her mother fainted. Her father argued, refusing to believe until he saw the DNA results and her cherished watch found in the bunker. With proof, reality finally hurt more than denial. Robert Hansen had an ex-wife and a grown daughter. They had not spoken in years, but police convinced them to give DNA samples. Hansen's daughter always believed her father had just left them, making a fresh start somewhere else. She never imagined he had died chained underground. David Price was alone in life after his parents' deaths. Only a younger brother left. When news reached him, he rushed from California, took David's remains, and buried them near the parents he missed for years. Investigators looked through Lamb's house for even more clues. In the basement, there were backpacks, sleeping bags, and clothes. Some items had names on tags, showing Lamb's attacks spread beyond the bunker. When police cross-checked missing people, they found more who had vanished. Their remains were never found. Maybe Lamb buried them elsewhere, or maybe they died before he began keeping prisoners for his experiment. Maps appeared with marks, each point showing routes, abductions, places along 7 different spots on the trails. Lamb's secrets ran further and deeper than anyone thought. Psychiatrists studied every diary, hoping to understand Lamb's mind. He did not hear voices, showed no signs of madness or faith in a mission. Lamb wanted only to experiment, to study human reactions to isolation, fear, and deprivation. All his victims were test subjects, their entire suffering written as a scientific record. During the military years, Lamb worked in interrogation units, learning how to break a mind without physical pressure. After leaving the service, his obsession grew. He read psychology books, kept notes, worked on theories, and finally found the missing piece, a place to hide people where no one would ever find them. Lamb stumbled on the bunker by chance while hunting, and the structure was almost perfect for his needs. The Cold War shelter, camouflaged with brush and earth, was solid and nearly invisible. He cleaned the entrance, made repairs, filled it with supplies, chains, tools, and all the evil intentions he carried. Every choice, every plan was made ahead of time. Lamb watched and picked his targets. Lonely tourists on remote trails followed them for hours till the moment was right. He struck, grabbed, and took them away from the world, starting a new chapter in his experiment each time. Would you ever walk alone on a trail if you knew what hides just beyond the curve? Sometimes, in places where trees crowd the sky and daylight struggles to find you, evil chooses the quiet path. Ask yourself, can anyone hear your voice if the forest is too deep? A single moment in the woods changed countless lives, all because darkness found the perfect hiding place. Howard Lamb didn't hunt in crowded campsites. He waited for lonely stretches, where the forest grew wild and dense and no one could see or hear their own footsteps reflect back. He planned every attack, moving with silent intention. When time was right, he appeared from nowhere, took the person by surprise, never giving them a chance to scream or run. Chloroform soaked into cloth, pressed tight against a face. A few seconds was all it took until consciousness faded. With trained hands, Lamb tied wrists and ankles, dragging his sleeping victims through labyrinths of rough terrain, fighting roots, stumps, hills, all in the middle of the night. The forest swallowed every sound. Not even the stars served as witnesses. The work was brutal, lifting and carrying grown adults over miles of steep, uneven ground. But Lamb was strong, hardened by years in the army, fueled by a cold obsession. He chose nights, timing his abductions when no other hikers were nearby, ensuring no one would possibly interrupt his ritual. Eventually, they reached the bunker, the place that held secrets more chilling than the cold air inside. He opened the concealed door, stepped down concrete stairs, listening for lost heartbeats in the empty dark. Once inside, he chained each body to a thick pipe, heavy, unmoving, chilling in its finality. The person would wake up alone, staring into the dark, with only fear and confusion for company. Lamb never explained, never spoke. He locked the door, disappearing back into the trees, leaving his new prisoner to face the terror alone. He returned only after a week, bringing supplies, water in old bottles, cans of food, stale bread. He watched quietly, eyes cold, sometimes writing down notes, treating human beings like specimens. For years, the cycle repeated. Robert Hansen survived almost 6 years. Jennifer Cole lived 5 years chained in shadows. David Price endured 3.5. Greg Morrison survived 3. Can you imagine years spent underground, chained so tightly you cannot move far, with only darkness, silence, and your own thoughts pressing in? Their minds searched for escape. Scratches covered the chains, signs of desperate attempts to file through thick metal. Tiny grooves marked their determination, their clinging hope. But the chains proved too strong, the locks unbreakable, each attempt ending in deeper frustration. They tried pulling the pipe out of solid concrete, but nothing yielded. Not the pipe, not the wall, not their luck. Shouting into the emptiness, calling for help, they hoped someone might hear. But sound is weak against earth, and the bunker was cocooned in layers of stone and dirt. Lamb made sure the entrance remained hidden, camouflaged with tangled roots, rocks, and wild leaves. Inside, they pressed their names into the walls. Dates, pleas written not just for themselves, but for anyone who might learn the truth one day. Every day a new scratch. Each mark counted down hope. Greg made 1 to 340 marks, almost 4 years from his. Harrisher was counting days away to feel alive, or just away. Not to forget they once belonged in the world. Experts worked to reconstruct how each person's last months unfolded. Robert Hansen died first, 3 years after Lamb took him, overcome by dehydration, exhaustion, and a cruel infection with no hope for medicine. His body stayed chained next to the living, an unbearable burden for those who survived. No one could move him. The chains were short, only 2 meters between each person, limiting movement to small circles on the cold floor. Jennifer Cole died next, 1 year after Robert. She suffered the same fate and probably fought every day to keep hope alive for a little longer. David and Greg outlasted them, their youth and strength making the difference. But even their bodies faltered when Lamb stopped coming in the summer of 2004. Without food, the human body rarely lasts more than 2 weeks. With only water from rusty pipes, Greg and David managed a little longer, cold, exhausted, unwilling to surrender, but eventually too weak to fight. David died first, leaving Greg the last survivor, alone with darkness and fading hope. Greg made the last marks on the wall, knowing each one might be his final conversation with the world. His phone lay nearby, a simple Nokia, taken on his final hike. The battery had died long ago, but not hope. The bunker had old electrical wiring. At some point after Greg died, fate intervened. A broken wire, a fluke touch, and a spark woke the phone for a few short moments. It sent a signal, a digital whisper, that was recorded instantly. Enough for a technician to notice. Enough for a final chance at rescue, even if it came too late. Greg's signal led investigators to the bunker, breaking the silence that held 4 souls captive for too many years. Evil will not always go unpunished, even if only its story remains. Howard Lamb was already dead. No trial, no justice, no chance for families to face him. Evidence concluded his guilt, and the case was closed officially a year after the bodies were found. To erase the horror, authorities destroyed the bunker in spring 2006, blowing up concrete walls, filling the ruins with earth, hoping the place would never attract dark interest again. The graves spread across the country. Greg was buried in Ohio beside his grandmother, Jennifer in Tennessee with her family, David in California, Robert in Georgia, the state of his birth. Howard Lamb's house burned down under mysterious circumstances 6 months after the investigation. Local rumors insisted it was arson, a final act of the angry or a ritual of cleansing. The police chose not to investigate. His own grave in the city cemetery remains unmarked, wild grass growing over forgotten stone, a fitting end for a man whose crimes lingered in shadow. But nothing can wash away the pain families carry, rangers responded. New cameras, stricter registration at trailheads, a promise to do better. Yet nature remains powerful, sometimes untamable. Even now, the forest stands wide and deep, offering peace to some and danger to others. Howard Lamb kept innocent people in chains for almost 4 years. But in the end, a single spark, a random echo gave them back to the world and to history stories. Like this beg us to remember every step in the woods may matter, every faint signal could hold the power to reveal terrible truths or save someone left alone when you walk through the forest. Listen to the silence. It holds voices from the past waiting to be heard, warning us never to forget.